Hello and a very good day to all the attendees. A very warm welcome and thank you for joining us in this webinar on new trends in employee performance management and how can we embrace it. I am Manali Vyas, your host today for this webinar. This session will be of 1 hour along with your question and answer session. The presenter for today's session will be Kavita Kalyan Sundaram. She is HR Specialist in Performance Management System for Synergita. She has several years of experience in handling and implementing performance management system for several companies. We are pleased to have Carrie Brannan, People Operations Specialist of Business Suites, joining us today as a keynote speaker. She will share experiences on how their organization reinvented their performance management system and how they are benefiting from this change. Headquartered in Austin, Texas, Business Suites provides full-service executive office suites and virtual office services for entrepreneurs, professionals, and Fortune 1000 companies. With 29 offices that span the country, Business Suites is recognized as leader in the workspace as a service industry, offering clients exceptional services. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you, Manali. Very warm welcome to all. In this webinar, we'll be looking at some of the latest trends that are emerging in the employee performance management space. Before going into the details of the webinar, let me just give you a quick overview of the agenda of our webinar today, of our discussion topic. So what we'll be doing is we'll be looking at some of the challenges of the existing performance management process and some latest happenings in the performance management and how some companies are embracing newer performance management practices. And we also have Kerry, who will be presenting about how they incorporated continuous feedback culture within their organization and how they are benefiting from that. And we'll also look at some of the easy practices that everyone can follow. So this would be the agenda for today's session. So, I'm just going to go through a few news articles that I think almost all of us would have read in the past few years. So basically, large companies like Adobe, Deloitte, and Microsoft are redefining their performance management process. A quick look at the headline would even give us an impression that the performance reviews are being abolished. But when we delve deep into it, we are able to understand that newer and better practices are being introduced, and certain not so conducive practices are being taken off. So that is what is happening. So though we look at things like Adobe abolishes, Microsoft Access is controversial. So this is what we usually, that's what we read. So it gives us an impression that people are moving away from the performance management or performance review itself, but that's not the case. So for the next few minutes, we'll be looking at what is happening, latest things that are happening in this space. Adobe was one of the early adopters of the new performance management practices. So when they actually moved away from the annual performance reviews, a lot of people thought it was very experimental and risky. But if you see the current statistics, done by Corporate Executive Board, the number of employers who are actually moving away from the performance reviews or who are redefining their performance management has actually grown from 4% to 12%. So that is a good trend. People are, a lot of organizations are trying to redefine their performance management process. And if you can see the latest addition are Accenture, Infosys, so all of them are also following suit. Before continuing, if you could just answer a quick survey for me, that would be great. are you happy with your current performance management process? So we'll just give a few seconds for you to answer this. So Manali, you have put the survey, right? So given the survey link. Hello.
Yes, Kavita, results are here.
Oh, great. Okay. Could you share that with us?
Yes, it's shared. You can view it on your screen.
No, Manali, I'm not able to view. So I think maybe you may have to take the control and show it to us, or. Oh, great. So do you show that again, Manali? So we were not able to see that 13%.
Okay, Kavita. Here.
Okay. So partly happy is 50%, and happy is 13%, and no is 38%. So thank you for answering that question. So moving on.
You are the presenter, Kavita.
Okay. I'm not able to. So before going into finding out what are the current happenings in the performance management space, so let me just quickly give you a recap of what is the current process, not a new practice, but the current performance review that is usually done by many organizations. So at the beginning of the year, the goals are set, and then there is an interim review of the performance, which is done basically once in every 6 months, and then there is an end of the year review. So that is something that happens. Then employees are categorized into grades, like whether they are great performers or average performers or low performers. All of them are categorized into grades, and a lot of organizations also have a normalization, so they fit the employee's performance into a normalized or a bell curve mode, followed by an appraisal meeting where a manager communicates the performance of the employee and what grade that he falls under. So this is what happens during the appraisal meeting, where other things are also discussed, the overall performance of the appraisal meeting, and followed by salary increments. So so this is the general. This is what happens traditionally. So just give me a second, please. View my screen because. Oh, sorry about it. I didn't know that I went off mode. So this is the traditional performance management process, which most organizations do this. But when you see, there are certain challenges with the current performance management process. So basically, a lot of employees don't like the annual performance reviews that happen. So many employees, like for instance, there was a survey that was conducted by Deloitte, in which 58% of the employees who were questioned, they thought that the performance management did not benefit them. Neither did they help them to improve the performance, nor did they help in employee engagement. So this is what the survey results found out. So a lot of employees think, they are not happy with the current performance management process, and there are just due to a few reasons. So one is the problem of recency. So what happens is, if performance review is done only once a year or once in 6 months, the managers tend to remember only the past few months of an employee, so they don't remember the entire year's performance. So they are judged by the last few months' performance of the employee. So that is the problem of recency. In the bias and rating, so most organizations have a rating mechanism, so the goals are rated by the managers. And when rating is given, so there is a possibility of bias creeping in. So you cannot have always an objective rating given to the employee. So that is another challenge with existing reviews. Then there is again a surprise element between the managers and the employees. The employees might be thinking that they have been performing well throughout the year, but when the manager communicates his performance to the employee, they might get into a disappointment or something. Again, it is related to the recency issue. And then there is a problem of ranking employees and fitting them into bell curve or any type of forced ranking methods that are followed by organizations. So that is a great demotivator, because employees don't like to be compared or ranked against one another. So they would rather be wanted to compare against the targets that are set for them. So if an employee set a target, so it is better to compare whether they have achieved the target or not, instead of comparing whether another employee has achieved more or not. So that is always a demotivator. And then at the end of the year, appraisals are usually associated with too much paperwork, filling forms, normalizing. So a lot of process-related time gets consumed, but the end result does not result in better performance actually. So that is also an issue. So when you see all these, I've just noted down a few issues here. If you see all of these, we know that the annual performance review is generally done as an annual ritual. When people think it's a HR requirement, so it's a check mark that I have to complete it. So that is how managers and employees approach the annual performance review. And that is one of the main reasons why many organizations are now trying to see how they can bring in better practices to make the performance of employees or to make employee more engaged and all of that. So this is the problem with the current performance management process. So now let us look at what is happening in the new performance management practice. So basically, when we analyzed what these companies are doing, we are very clearly able to see what is getting abolished. The forced or stacked ranking of employees, either into a bell curve or any other form of forced ranking that organizations follow. So a lot of organizations are trying to move away from that because it has never I'll maybe let you know what is a bell curve and why it has never worked a little later. So we'll just see what is getting abolished. So one is the forced or stacked ranking of employees into a bell curve. The second one is even some organizations are making a very radical change by even moving away from the annual performance ratings, reviews and ratings. So they are trying to see to move away from that. So that is also getting abolished. So this is what is happening. Now coming back to the bell curve, why it is going away. So if you see a bell curve, it is nothing but a statistical representation of statistical force fitting of the performance of the employees into a bell curve. So what happens is concentration is an average is found out, an average or a mean is found out, and concentration of many employees is around this average. So a lot of employees are either just below the average or just above the average, and very few low performers and very few high performers. So this is what happens in a normal distribution. And what organizations do is to make sure that there is their employees' performance are into a bell curve. They predefine the percentage of the high performers, the average performers, and the low performers. So they do they assume that 10% should be my high performers, almost 70% would be my average and mid-average performers, and then maybe 10% low performers. So this is something that is getting predefined by organizations, and that is also a problem. And then what happens is this predefinition is also being done because they don't want any grade inflation. So if they don't do a predefinition, so maybe 20% or 30% may be high performers and 30% may go to low performers. So they don't want that type of a grade inflation, so they predefine it. And because of this, a lot of time goes away in managers trying to force fit their employee performance to fall into a bell curve. So that is, and people who are actually maybe high performers are being moved into average performance bucket because to actually be in that 10% thing. So what happens is high performers are being pushed into average, and average performers, some of them are being moved into the low performance bracket as well. So this is what is a bell curve, and many organizations are trying to move away from this. And the reason why annual performance reviews and ratings are going away is, as we saw, a lot of, rating, if you see, it is always associated with a lot of errors. It's very difficult to be very objective in giving ratings, so they are moving away from the ratings. And annual reviews, generally what happens is it is done after the performance is over, just assessing how the employee has done in the past year. So it doesn't maybe help them to improve and course correct during the year. Instead of that, it just waits for the employee to perform the entire year and maybe give some feedback which may not help in the better performance. So that's the reason why annual ratings and performance reviews are also going away. So this is what is happening. What is getting abolished by these organizations are this, and what is before going into what is being brought in, would you be able to just fill in one more quick survey for me? Does your organization force your employee performance into a bell curve? Would you be able to do that for me? Manali, you will publish the poll results?
Yes, Kavita, it's published.
I'm still waiting. I'm not able to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for answering that. So I've got a no 81%. So that's a great trend. I think a lot of you don't have the bell curve. So which is a good one. I mean, thank you for answering that. So please make me. Have you given me access? So I'm not able to see the screen. Manali? Hello? Change me as a presenter? Okay. Yeah. So now looking at some of the new performance management practices that have been brought in. So it's basically, if you see the timely, constructive, and continuous feedback, so that is what is most organizations are trying to bring in. So there is something called agile. So people are trying to give feedback when it is needed and help employees to course correct and help them to achieve the goal. So that is what is happening, a continuous conversation, healthy conversation between the managers and the employees on regular intervals. So this we feel would definitely be helping the employees more engaged, would be they will have they'll be clear in what is expected of them, and also it will help in overall improving the performance of the employee. So that is a very important change that these organizations are bringing in, which is an agile feedback. And then there is one more thing where the focus is more on the employee development. So basically, if you see in today a lot of organizations are more knowledge-based, where the employee skills, their attitude, and also the ability to innovate, work together. So all of that matter a lot. So these organizations are trying to focus on how to develop these capabilities, which will in turn help in improving the performance of the employee. So these two are the major initiatives that are being brought in, which is one is the continuous feedback, and the second one is employee development initiatives. Just to add to this, this one, according to Tom Peters, who's author of the book In Search of Excellence, he says dynamic employee evaluation is the need of the hour, which means that dynamically being agile in giving feedback and in helping them grow and all of that. So that is what is being brought in by these organizations. I will also look at how Adobe and Deloitte are doing. So they are also exactly doing the same thing. They have a concept called Checkins. So Checkins are nothing but frequent conversations between the managers and the employees. A lot of things are discussed here. So what happens is, so even in Deloitte's case, I think it's every week they discuss on this. So what happens in these discussions are goals are goals are set, so clear expectations are set, then priorities are reviewed, feedback is given, both constructive feedback as well as appreciative feedback. So all of that is given, as well as course correction. So if they are missing out on something, so it is on achieving a particular goal, so it is course corrected, and also coaching is given. So this happens in the check-ins. So the frequent check-ins, these things are discussed, and this is going to actually help in improving the performance. So if you see the traditional practice until now, so what happens is these frequent conversations do not happen, and basically performance reviews are done for various other reasons. For instance, it is done for comparing employees, or it is done for taking for external training, so or for salary revision. So the end result of an annual performance reviews are many, and so the actual improving the performance is not being focused on. But when these frequent and agile conversations happen, a lot of things can be achieved by this, because the employee feels more engaged, he knows what has to be done, and everything goes as per. So the overall morale and the performance of the employees improves tremendously because of this. And if you actually see, a lot of managers in many companies do have these conversations. So it's just that it is not consistently followed, but many managers, as a natural part of their job, they do have these conversations that do happen. But now organizations are giving more importance on everyone doing this. So that is what is happening in Deloitte and Adobe. So they have these regular check-ins. And in Deloitte, they also have, after every project, a few questions are being sent to the managers. For instance, it is more of a qualitative type of question, so no rating or anything is given. The questions like, given what I know of this person's performance, I will always have him or her on my team. Or given what if it were my money, I will give him the highest compensation raise. So all these type of qualitative feedback is also being circulated to all the managers, or to the project managers, and then some decision regarding compensation or promotion. So all of that are arrived based on this. So this is what Adobe and Deloitte are doing, just a quick look at what one of our customers are doing regarding continuous feedback. Radisson Blu GRT is a 5-star hotel based out of Chennai. So they have a very interesting concept of rewarding performance. So there's something called the Bravo Award, which is given for good performance. So this Bravo Award, anybody can share to anyone else. For instance, a chef, if he spots a housekeeping person doing perfect cleanliness of something, so he can actually give him a Bravo Award. So it's an instant recognition culture that is followed in their organization, which is being a service-oriented hotel. So definitely this gives a lot of motivation to the employees. And if you see these statistics, like total number of awards that they provided for the past 12 months, it's almost 2,850. So almost close to 3,000 awards they have done using this continuous feedback feature, where they have rewarded the employees. So the performance of the employees are rewarded then and there. So it sort of also lets us know that performance rewards may not always be monetary, but even recognition and awards so matters a lot for the improving the morale of the employees. So this would be the this is what GRT follows. So so basically, I just want to mention a few things again. So one is to move away from the bell curve and to eliminate comparisons, and to bring in more agile performance management practices. So this is what is generally happening right now. So they're going away from the rating. So when the rating goes away, the bias goes away, and more continuous conversation happens. So so that is what the new trend is all about, actually. So that's the new trend all about. And now I would also like to invite Kerry to talk about her experiences on bringing the continuous feedback culture within her organization and how they benefit from them. Over to you, Kerry.
Hi, thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak with you today. Business Suites employs just over 100 people, and we have 29 locations in 7 states. As a member of the operations team, my role is to contribute to the satisfaction and retention of all Business Suites team members. And one of my goals this year was to implement more efficient, effective, and scalable employment technology. We searched long and hard for a better system that would enable us to concentrate on establishing effective performance management behaviors, and we're thrilled when we located the perfect system in Synergita. For those of you who aren't happy with your performance management process, I highly recommend matching the solution to the problem. And as you'll see on this slide here, we had an increase in turnover in 2013, and we discovered that there was an extreme lack of engagement amongst our team members. And this was something that the company just couldn't ignore. Engagement drives every facet of productivity, and it reduces turnover. And high turnover was impacting our bottom line. Next slide, please. We conducted a thorough analysis where we learned our current performance management system was flawed, and performance management should be an everyday part of a high-performance feedback culture. And we also learned that we needed to separate the performance and compensation conversations. So in 2014, we completely abolished performance appraisals and implemented a culture of feedback. And then in 2015, we raised employee engagement from an HR program to a core business strategy with a goal of reducing our turnover by 20%. We began working on shifting our performance management mindset and gave managers a specific yet simple practice that they could adopt and that would hold them accountable. And I'm here to tell you that there is value in conversations and that talk isn't cheap. Our focus became increasing accountability, engagement, and success through this culture of feedback. We empowered our managers to have meaningful performance conversations with their direct reports, and these meaningful exchanges between teams boost your bottom line. When you focus on strengths, it reduces disengagement. So if a manager focuses on a team member's weaknesses and is only criticizing them and telling them this is how you need to improve, that team member's chances of being actively disengaged are about 2 in 10. If the team member is ignored, those chances double to 4 in 10. But when a manager focuses on a team member's strengths, the chances that team member will be actively disengaged are reduced to 1 in 100. And these are some of our top priorities in searching for the new systems. So in Q1 of this year, we began our search. We were looking for an engaging system with a people-first approach that would ensure all levels of management are conducting the leadership activities that were needed to align and drive the company forward. We knew we needed a tool that had an engagement factor, and we were excited when we found Synergita. Synergita had everything that we needed for improving communications, collaboration, and coaching. It facilitated our need for an easier process with flexibility. Best of all, it's cost-effective, it was scalable for a company of our size, and customizable. For me, the executive buy-in was an easy sell. A 20% reduction that we were looking for, and the cost of Synergita, it meant that we were getting over $390,000 US return on investment. And this is where we really had to focus on the buy-in, so the buy-in from the company, and it had to come from the top levels down. So we had to really sell why we were using a social media platform. And our company works in a distributed environment, meaning we're spread out across the country. And we can't bring everyone together for a quick meeting in a conference room. So by allowing our team members to be able to post ideas and comments about their work and activities at their centers, team members throughout the company are able to work together. They're able to seek and give advice, as well as have a sense of what others are working on. And this sort of environment can inspire creativity while providing a convenient and rapid way for us to communicate with each other. We also had to sell why we were using this continuous feedback model. And in shifting our performance management mindset, we set ongoing expectations in real time throughout the year. We maintain open dialogue about performance expectations, which minimizes performance deficiencies. Our managers are expected to provide regular updates to team members so they understand context and outside factors affecting their work. The aim is to give our team members information when they need it rather than months after a teachable moment has passed. And if you think about the traditional performance appraisal, you're conducting it annually and you're gathering all of this information on notes that you've taken and things that have transpired over the course of the year. And you really tend to focus on what's most recent. So you may forget about a significant accomplishment that they've achieved 6 months prior. And if you needed to counsel somebody on something, it's ineffective when you're going back and saying 9 months ago you had this happen and then 6 months ago this happened. So you really need to seize the moment and coach and teach during that time and not after the moment has passed. So by being open with our team members, we are encouraging them to trust us. They know where they stand in these conversations. And in trusting, they are also open in return, and they accept responsibility for improving. Ongoing conversations are an easier process with flexibility. Feedback and coaching increases productivity, the quality of work, and the effectiveness of the department. And there's more transparency, and it also reinforces your culture. Next slide, please. So in setting out and getting this buy-in, we had our managers rethink the notion of feedback. We let them know that we're coaching for success, and ongoing performance feedback and coaching is a continuous and continual process of providing help to your team by analyzing their performance and other job behaviors for the purpose of increasing their job effectiveness. We let them know that in these conversations they were having, they should target a different topic. These conversations are an opportunity to discuss near-term and future work. It's as simple as asking, what are your priorities this week and how can I help you? Maintaining ongoing performance conversations, specifically providing proper feedback, is something that we needed to work on weekly. And while it may seem like it's an added responsibility to a manager's already full plate, managers that provide ongoing feedback and coaching against established goals and metrics are actually making their job easier. Studies show that the best leaders are talking to their people individually each week, and these leaders don't view ongoing conversations as stopping their work. It's actually a part of their work. They're fueling performance and recognizing contributions, and these more frequent conversations correlate to increased engagement and a greater likelihood of meeting and exceeding the company or department goals. Next slide, please. We call our process of continuous feedbacks with the check-ins working in Cadence. So for the remainder of 2015, our focus was on the conversation and the quality of the conversation, not the quantity of documentation. We wanted to develop a pattern, a consistent beat, and make a habit of checking in and posting on Synergy's continuous feedback wall and developing a pattern of replying to posts. So in working in Cadence, we have brief weekly meetings that we call a pulse check-in. And in developing that consistent beat, we chose the pulse because in music and music theory, the pulse consists of strong beats in a repeating series. And a measure in music is a measurement of time that contains a specific number of pulses defined by a time signature. So pulse check-ins measure performance. They are an opportunity for regular one-on-one time to ask questions, clarify expectations, and exchange feedback. The most important thing when you are managing change is being open to your employees and doing what's best for them. And we decided that in implementing a new process, we needed to get them familiar with the conversation before we got into the documentation. The pulse check-ins are an opportunity to engage. It's ongoing two-way dialogue creates that engagement. The team knows where they stand, and the pulse check-in is what that's all about. If they're performing well, they're being told they're performing, and if they're not, they're being given that feedback on how they can improve their performance. It's not about giving the team a list of things to do. You focus on one or two key things, and you have real open dialogue. Next slide, please. Working in Cadence is a shared accountability model. The pulse check-in isn't just a one-way street. The ongoing feedback should be reciprocal, and team members are expected to provide their managers with feedback on their performance as a manager in the same conversation. Openness to give and receive feedback by both parties is critical to the process. In 2016, we'll introduce a new component. If we can go back to the last slide, sorry.
Yes, sorry.
So in 2016, we'll introduce a new component to working in Cadence, and we'll actually set annual expectations and introduce tempo talks. And this is where you're having a more formal conversation. Tempo is Italian for time, which indicates the speed of a song and the rate at which beats are repeated. So the tempo talks are going to take place every 90, 120, or 180 days. The manager has the flexibility of setting the pace, and the tempo talks are actually an extension of the ongoing dialogue between the manager that's taking place during these pulse check-ins. Tempo talks will have absolutely no surprises because everything is going to be communicated during the actual pulse check-in. And we wanted there to be responsibility from both the manager and their direct report. So we are asking that the direct report actually request the tempo talk. And we found that success comes from working together. So by both teams being responsible for some part of working in Cadence, you'll have continued success in the process. And in closing, I wanted to say that if you are thinking about implementing change, it's important to have that buy-in from the top of the company on down. We worked with Synergita on having a committee that would test the product before we rolled it out to the managers. We gave our managers about a month to get familiar with the system prior to introducing it to the team members, because in implementing the new process, they're front line and they're getting all of the questions, why are we doing this, how do we do this? So we wanted them to be familiar and comfortable with the process and really buying into it. And recognizing that there was change, we got a lot of feedback that we took and gave back to the Synergita development team and said, we need to be able to implement this. We need to be able to reply to comments, and they wanted to add emoticons to things. They really were involved in the social component of it and making it engaging and fun, and the Synergita team was just beyond amazing because they really worked with us in making sure that this was something that was totally ours, even to the point of allowing us to rebrand. And we, when we log in, our team members see eTalent powered by Synergita. So they know that this is an internal process, which was huge. And last, it's just implementing the change in stages and allowing your team to get familiar with having this conversation so that you're really not focusing on documentation and that it is really about the quality of the conversation.
Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Kavita. So let us see some questions which our attendees have asked. Okay, so first question is, our company is moving to a practice similar to what you have described with quarterly conversations versus annual reviews and a more agile priority setting process versus annual objectives. We are keeping an overall annual rating. My question is this, with the move away from stack ranking, bell curves, etc., what do you see happening with the use of 9 blocks? Kavita, would you like to answer?
Yeah, Manali, would you be able to, I know it's a big question, but would you quickly rerun for me?
Yeah, sure.
Would you be able to? Yeah.
Sure. The attendee have asked, our company is moving to a practice similar to what you have described with quarterly conversations versus annual reviews and a more agile priority setting process versus annual objectives. We are keeping an overall annual rating. So the question is, with the move away from stack ranking or bell curves, etc., what do you see happening with the use of 9 blocks?
I assume that by 9 blocks you are mentioning about 9 box analysis, if I am not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I think we will get back to you with the answer for this, because I think I may have to really understand the question better. So what we will do is, after the end of the webinar, we will nicely put down the answers in a Word document and then send it to you, because if you have any other questions, Manali,
yeah.
I'll do.
Okay, no problem, Kavita. Next question is, I think, for Kerry. They have asked, what tips do you have to get managers on board with continuous feedback? I think my manager will view this as more work than the annual review.
That's a great question. It's they're already supposed to be, as leaders, having conversations. So it's getting them to shift from the this is a change and this is a new process that we're doing to you're already having these conversations. So the continuous feedback is not stopping your work. It is actually part of working. It is how work gets done, and encouraging them to understand that these more frequent conversations correlate to an increased engagement, and in telling your team member how they're doing, they're not questioning and wondering, well, I made an error on this, and what does my boss think about that? They know where they stand, and there's open dialogue and trust that's established through these conversations. And it's short. It's our managers are having 10 to 15 minute casual check-ins on a weekly basis. There's no schedule for they have it when it's convenient for them, and that they just have to be able to say, I had this check-in, and documenting the question that was asked and if there are any action items on that. But it is very simple. And it's short and sweet.
Thank you, Kerry. Okay, let's see one more question. The question is, managers generally have a tendency to keep employees happy, to tend to give a decent rating. How would we handle this? Kavita, would you like to answer?
Yeah, that's very true. You know, managers do give a they tend to keep the employees happy, so they always try to rate them on a better side. So that is one of the main reasons why I think many organizations are trying to even go away from the annual, the rating thing. They're trying to make it more qualitative and more continuous conversations. So all of that happens. I think one of the main reasons is because of the bias in ratings. So that's the reason why people are trying to move away from the rating.
And if I may add in, I know that you mentioned in one of the earlier slides that Deloitte was also doing this, and that one of their questions actually is, if this was your money, would you, this person, be worthy of an increase? And I think that in what we found is in our company that these performance reviews were inflated because they were doing that. They were trying to keep the employee happy and not wanting to have a difficult conversation. And also, what's flawed in the performance appraisal is that the conversation is handled during discussion of compensation, and all the employee wants to hear at that point is, what are you paying me? What is my increase going to be? They're not concerned with the rest of the appraisal. They want to know the bottom line. What am I being paid? So separating the actual performance review from the actual compensation consult allows you to actually have the things that need to be addressed be heard. And when you hold the manager accountable and say, if this was your money, would you be giving that person a raise? Because it's not essentially their money, but it's coming out of their budget, which they are accountable for and which is aligned to corporate goals. So separating just the performance conversation with the feedback is going to help you immensely, because you'll be able to then really have these conversations that lead up to that performance, and being able to have a difficult conversation that, yes, it's your annual review or your anniversary, and we're recognizing your anniversary, but your performance still needs improving, and therefore you're not merited an increase at that time.
Yeah, thank you. Manoli, I would like to answer the first question that you had mentioned. So is that okay if I take it now?
Yeah, sure, Kavita.
The first, okay. So to answer that question, what happens to if not Belco, what happens? So basically, if you see, I think Deloitte again, so they have something called a scatter diagram also. So what they do is, based on the questions that are asked, which is like, would this person be ready for promotion, or so there are few qualitative questions that are asked, and then employees are actually put in a scatter thing as to where they stand, whether they are with respect to compensation, would they go into a higher, which part of it do they stand? So that is one way to look at it. And one another way is, instead of forcing to a bell curve, if you allow the natural performance of the employees, so instead of forcing it, there is something called a long tail distribution that certain organizations do. So it's no force fitting, so allow employees' performance to actually take its natural shape with either a positive skew or a negative skew, as the case may be. So all these types are possible, is what I think. But we will also, as I mentioned, write in a much more detailed fashion and send it across to you as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you, Kerry. Since we are running out of time, so I think we need to wind up this session. Thank you all for attending the session. Hope you all had a good and informative session. If you have any questions, please feel free to send the email at info@synergita.com. We will also send the recorded version of this webinar to all the attendees, and also answer to all of your questions. Thank you once again, Kavita, and thank you, Carrie, for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.